He wants to decrease the wealth of the colonizers, the rich West, and increase the availability of wealth and energy. That's why he proposes huge global transfers of wealth from the wealthy West to the rest. So this anti-colonial key opens the lock. We have a lot of other arguments, and they're like hammers. They bang around at Obama. They try to fit him into some theory, and then there is the rage. The reason I called the book The Roots of Obama's Rage is that this isn't an ideology. This isn't something he picked up in college, as flirted with as a sort of quasi-Marxist. This is rooted in his own deep personal history. He's a little bit like the guy in the Schwarzenegger movie who comes home and his whole family has been massacred, and he becomes a man. And he becomes a man on a mission. He's got to go back. He's got to settle scores. This is Barack Obama.
I have to tell you, this is the point that we made when we stumbled on the grandpa being kept in a British prison camp, and then grandma telling Barack, this is the story in anti-colonialism. So you see, wait a minute, grandpa was put into a camp for a while because of the British. You see that dad left his son for this cause. Then mom left her son for this cause. His whole family has sacrificed for generations now for this cause. And somehow or another, the media wants you to think that that's irrelevant. We are a product of what we came from, good or bad.
Not only is that true in general, but it is especially true of Obama. His publishers gave him a big advance and said, go write a book about your life. He wrote a book about his father's life. He took his father's name. So in a sense, he says himself, and everybody who knows him says this. His granny, Sarah Obama, not his real granny, she's one of the other wives of his grandfather, Onyango Obama, but she says, I look at him and I see all the same things. The vision of the father is realized in the son. So the people who know Obama see this uncanny resemblance. I'm saving stuff in the book. I don't want to talk about the grandfather because the story is so fascinating. In effect, Obama ends up rejecting his grandfather. In his own book, he calls him a house nigger. He rejects his grandfather and he puts all his hopes in his father. It's a very interesting question why. His grandfather suffered more than his father, but it's a fascinating psychological narrative that connects to his policies. That's what's so eye-opening about it.
Could I ask you a favor? I know you were quoting the president, but please don't use the N-word on this program.
No, I mean, I was just, sorry, but I was just
you're quoting him, I know that, but please don't use it. All right. We're going to continue here in just a second. Now, this is something that I talked about a while back and got a lot of heat for. You don't reject the name Barry and go for Barack as a way to embrace the culture that you're in. That's not embracing America. You can, I mean, Dinesh D'Souza, it's an American name. I mean, we are what we are now. We don't necessarily Americanize people or their names. But when you come in and you're born and you are Barry and you understand Dad's name, it changes things. Dinesh.
Yeah, I think people think that Obama took his father's name and Barry became Barack. But it's not quite that simple. Obama's father was also Barry. When he came to America, he, like a lot of immigrants, said, I want to assimilate, I want to do well here, call me Barry. So Obama actually had his father's American name. The interesting thing isn't that Obama rejected his name and took his dad's name. He rejected his father's American name and took his father's African name. So you can almost see a reverse transition. Obama's father went from African name, Barack, to American name, Barry. Young Obama made the opposite journey. He went from American name, Barry, to African name, Barack. And this is the trajectory of his life. He went to Europe, Obama did, and he said, I didn't like it over there. He said, it was beautiful, but it just wasn't mine. It wasn't me. Now think about it. Obama has a white mom. He has an African dad. He's equally descended from Africa and from Europe, but he rejects his European side and identifies with his dad. Now again, this is not my psychoanalysis. This is Obama. Obama. I'm going to read a sentence now from Dreams from My Father. He says, this book is, quote, the record of a personal interior journey, a boy's search for his father, and through that search, a workable meaning for his life as a black American. It was into my father's image, the black man, son of Africa, that I packed all the attributes I sought in myself. Obama is saying, I formed not only my values, not only my views, my identity in the image of my father.
Now, how do you possibly argue against this, Dinesh?
Well, you can't, and that's why people are screaming, birthers, he wasn't born here, the race card. Look, Obama doesn't care about race. A lot of African Americans are baffled by Obama. They're saying, why isn't he pushing affirmative action? Why isn't he pushing the black agenda? And the answer is, he doesn't care about the black agenda. His history is not the same as African Americans. He's not descended from slaves. He never sat at a segregated lunch counter. His history is a different history.
The reason why the media does not look into the, as Dinesh D'Souza says in his book, the roots of Obama's rage, is because they agree.
They have the same rage.
That America is the oppressor. Mm-hmm. And so they don't see it, or they accept it as the norm, or they just excuse it because they also agree that America has just been taking too much stuff from everybody else. Would you agree with that, Dinesh?
I would, and I think what is particularly scary about all this, but also illuminating, is that it helps to explain a lot of what Obama is doing, how the rage is being acted out. There's a lot of people covering for Obama. In fact, there are big stories about Obama that go unreported. Here's a small example. You remember a few months ago when Cameron, the British Prime Minister, came to America. Obama and Cameron stood together and said, we are both outraged at the release of the Lockerbie bomber. This is Abdel Bassett, the guy who brought down the Pan Am jet over Lockerbie, Scotland. A couple of hundred Americans were killed. So a terrible incident, and the Scots let him go. The Scottish government released him. He's a free man living in Libya. Well, the London Times obtained a letter that the Obama administration sent to the Scottish government a week before Abdel Bassett's release, saying, in effect, we don't mind if you let him go.
We just leave him in Scotland.
We prefer you keep him in Scotland, don't send him to Libya. Mm-hmm. But in effect, and the Scottish government officials were quoted in the London Times saying, we interpreted that to mean that America didn't really object, and that gave us, in a sense, the license to let him go.
Correct.
So now you say, why would Obama do this? I mean, Obama's a socialist explains nothing. I think people are fumbling around, so they go, Obama must be a Muslim. But he's not a Muslim. See, if you plug in the anti-colonial thesis, it explains it at a moment. Because the anti-colonial thesis says America is the rogue elephant. America is occupying two Muslim countries, Iraq and Afghanistan. America is stampeding all over the world. So from that point of view, the Muslims fighting against us are anti-colonial resistors. They are liberation fighters. And so it's not that Obama approves of the killing of Americans. That's absurd. But he has a certain kinship, if you will, with the resistors. His father was a resistor. His grandfather was a resistor. And where the Obama thesis really takes off is Obama, in a sense, never had his father. His father was gone his whole life. He visited him once when Obama was 10. A very illuminating incident. I'm going to save that for my book. But when Obama went to his father's grave in a riveting scene, Obama, in effect, says to his father, he says, I touched the ground. He says, I got my father's spirit from the earth. It's kind of like he said, I don't have my father, but I'm going to take my father's vision. I'm going to take my father's ideology. I'm going to do what my father never succeeded in doing. It's a Freudian, it's almost Shakespearean, it's a powerful story, and it connects to his actual behavior in the White House.
It is important to understand that. Have you read Prairie Fire lately? Have you read the Weather Underground Manifesto?
That I have read.
Okay, and I did a special on it. I think 5 days on it. Gosh, I don't know how many months ago, and it was. What people have to understand: there are Democrats, then there are progressives. Then there are revolutionaries, and they have cobbled together on the left, they have cobbled everyone together, and they've said whatever it is they have to say to each other to be able to keep that coalition together. Where does Barack Obama fall in this scale? Is he a Democrat? Is he a progressive? Or is he a revolutionary?
He is